500 million ringgit prihatin sukuk for Malaysians to help rebuild economy. Outdoor sports co-curricular activities allowed in schools from 1st September. You're watching Saluran Berita RTM with me, Renee Fong. Good evening. The issuing of the 500 million ringgit sukuk prihatin Islamic bonds today is in response to the people's desire to help the government rebuild the economy in the post-COVID-19 pandemic era. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the government decided to implement a bottom-up approach in the issuance of sukuk prihatin to open opportunities for the public and the corporate sector to subscribe. Elaborating further on the matter, Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the subscription from Sukuk Prihatin would be channelled into the COVID-19 Consolidated Fund and programs to be funded by Sukuk were the benefit for those affected by the pandemic.
Oleh kerana dana sukuk prihatin ini tertumpu kepada golongan yang benar-benar memerlukan, kerajaan berjanji akan memastikan seboleh mungkin tidak ada yang ketinggalan dalam usaha pemulihan ekonomi susulan wabak COVID-19 ini. No one will be left behind.
He also said the Sukuk Prihatin initiative met the three focus of the shared prosperity vision and is part of an approach that would benefit the most target group that is worst affected by COVID-19. The three focus of the shared prosperity vision are to restructure economy by ensuring development for all, addressing inequality by bridging the income gap and building the country towards a united, prosperous and dignified nation. Tan Sri Muhyiddin also expressed optimism today in the economy's ability to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, saying Malaysia is on track to bounce back. He said economic indicators showed that many sectors had recorded quick recovery since reopening, while exports and industrial production have also been on the rise. The Premier said that wholesale and retail trade sales notched a 21.8% growth in June, with the sale of motor vehicles rising by 78.9%. With these early signs of recovery, Tan Sri Muhyiddin noted that the country's economy is expected to gradually recover in the second half of 2020 and hopefully record a strong GDP recovery of between 5.5% and 8% in 2021.
Walaupun masih banyak usaha yang perlu kita sama-sama lakukan untuk membina semula ekonomi negara, saya yakin dengan tekad yang kuat dan semangat yang teguh, kita mampu untuk menangani masalah ekonomi berikutan penularan wabak COVID-19 ini. Malaysia's first digital sukuk, the 500 million ringgit sukuk prihatin that was launched today, may be subscribed to with a minimum investment of 500 ringgit with no maximum limit. According to Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, it may be fully subscribed digitally through Jom Pay and Do It Now.
Ini merupakan satu kadar yang kompetitif memandangkan ianya ditetapkan selama 2 tahun. Keuntungan akan dikreditkan ke dalam akaun pelabur setiap suku tahun.
The Finance Minister said this at the launch of the Sukuk Prihatin in Putrajaya, witnessed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah, who also consented to become the Sukuk's first investor. A statement from the Finance Ministry said the Sukuk may be subscribed to from today until 17th September, with profits to be paid on a quarterly basis and exempted from tax. It said the Sukuk, for which Maybank is the main distribution bank, is a Sharia-compliant instrument based on the principle of tawarruk via the commodity murabahah arrangement and is open to Malaysian citizens aged 18 years and above. The Finance Minister added that the Sukuk Prihatin is one of the initiatives under the National Economic Recovery Plan Penjana launched by the Prime Minister on 5th June. Sports and co-curricular activities to be held outside of classrooms will be permitted starting 1st September. Senior Minister Security Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the decision, however, must take into consideration the physical and psychological well-being of students. In addition, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said the implementation must comply with guidelines issued by the National Security Council and other related ministries.
Garis panduan ini merangkumi pelaksanaan aktiviti sukan dan ko-kurikulum sekolah secara bersemuka, termasuk latihan amali di luar bilik darjah bagi mata pelajaran pendidikan jasmani dan pendidikan kesihatan serta sains sukan dan dalam keadaan yang terkawal. Antara garis panduan yang perlu dipatuhi termasuk mendapatkan kebenaran bertulis ibu bapa murid yang terlibat. Jadi ibu bapa mesti beri kebenaran sebelum mereka terlibat dalam aktiviti. Menggunakan bilik mandi persalinan dihadkan mengikut kapasiti. Ini antara yang kita luluskan. Memastikan penjarakan fizikal 1 hingga 3 meter bagi aktiviti statistik dan 3 hingga 5 meter bagi aktiviti dinamik. Peralatan perlu dibersihkan dan disanitasi.
He said the special meeting also reviewed and approved the guidelines for the teaching and learning of technical and vocational education practical activities, which would also begin on 1st September. The senior minister added that the guidelines are applicable to more than 89 vocational colleges and selected Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan and Sekolah Menengah Teknik. Among the guidelines that must be adhered to are deciding the number of students based on the capacity of space and areas used for the activities, cleaning and disinfecting practical equipment, and not allowing symptomatic students to join practical activities. After 6 consecutive days of recording 2-digit COVID-19 positive cases, the number of new daily cases has decreased to a single digit, with 7 cases reported today. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said 4 of the new cases are imported, where 2 of them are Malaysians and the others are foreigners, while the remaining are local transmissions registered in Kedah.
4 kes adalah kes import yang telah mendapat jangkitan di luar negara, iaitu melibatkan 2 kes warga negara Malaysia dan 2 bukan warga negara. 4 kes import tersebut adalah dari negara iaitu Bangladesh, 2 bukan warga negara dan 1 warga negara. Satu lagi ialah 1 kes lagi daripada yang pulang pada United Kingdom. Ketiga-tiga kes penularan di dalam negara melibatkan warga negara Malaysia di Kedah, iaitu 2 kes daripada kluster Salar dan 1 kes daripada kluster Tawar.
26 cases have recovered and were discharged, making the total active cases as of today 8,902. Currently, 8 cases are under intensive care unit ICU treatment, with 2 needing respiratory aid. No new deaths were recorded today. A heavier punishment should be imposed against those who deliberately fly the Jalur Gemilang upside down and insult the National Coat of Arms. Communications and Multimedia Deputy Minister Datuk Zahidi Zainul Abidin, who cited Thailand, said the country imposes severe punishments on those who insult the country, including the King, which would be a lesson to deter others from doing the same mistake. Commenting further on the matter, Datuk Zahidi said those who fly the Jalur Gemilang upside down and insult the National Coat of Arms should be arrested, and if possible, stern action taken against them, because in other countries, it is rare for people to insult the national flag and the coat of arms, as well as the King. He also said that imposing heavy punishment on such offenders would be a lesson to others. The Communications and Multimedia Deputy Minister added that the ministry will continue to step up efforts to make the people understand why they have to respect the national flag and the coat of arms, which are the symbols of the country.
The Johor Police managed to cripple a drug trafficking and distribution syndicate in the state with the recent arrest of 23 of its members through several operations. The syndicate, known as Geng Halim, was crippled following a total of 22 raids by the Johor Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department (NCID) in the Johor Bahru, Iskandar Puteri, Pontian and Kota Tinggi districts.
Johor Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Pichai said the raids were carried out through a special operation against the syndicate between 11 August and yesterday. He said the suspects arrested consisted of 17 local men, including the syndicate's mastermind known as Halim, 4 local women as well as an Indonesian and Vietnamese woman aged between 31 and 50. During the raid, police also managed to seize various drugs including 14.03 kilograms of marijuana, 6.84 kilogram of heroin, 1.58 kilogram of shabu, 44.31 grams of ketamine and 400 yaba pills worth 170,052 ringgit. He said further investigations into the syndicate revealed links to drug trafficking syndicates in Indonesia, and the supplies were obtained from Kuala Lumpur, with Johor being a transit for distribution throughout the state's western coast. Dato' Ayub Khan also said drug urine screening on the suspects found that 19 of them were positive for methamphetamine and ketamine abuse. The Johor Police Chief added that the suspects have been remanded for 14 days starting yesterday, and the case will be investigated under Section 39B, Section 12, Subsection 2 and Section 15, Subsection 1, Subsection A of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952 and Section 6, Subsection 1, Subsection C of the Immigration Act 1959-63.
A company owner pleaded not guilty at the Seremban Sessions Court in Negeri Sembilan today to 22 counts of money laundering involving cigarette smuggling. Chua Boon Leng, 54, made the plea after the charges were read out in Mandarin to him before Judge Diana Mat Razali.
On the 1st to the 18th count, Chua was alleged to have used his current accounts at Maybank, CIMB and Hong Leong Bank and his company account at Maybank as a platform to commit money laundering. For the 19th to the 22nd charge, he was alleged to have committed money laundering by transferring 550,000 ringgit from his account at Maybank to an account at CIMB. All the offences were allegedly committed at the Seremban 2 branch offices of the banks concerned between 1st October 2014 and 24 May 2019. He was charged under Section 4, Subsection 1, Subsection B of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, which provides an imprisonment for up to 15 years and fine of 5 times the amount of proceeds from unlawful activities, or 5 million ringgit, whichever is higher, if found guilty. The court allowed Chua bail of 80,000 ringgit and one surety for all charges and set 15 September for mention. The prosecution was conducted by Deputy Public Prosecutor Haris Ong Muhammad Jeffrey Ong, while Chua was represented by lawyer Arif Amir.
Coming up, government plans to build 7,374 homes for military personnel. Malaysian tourism industry players are urged to boost tourist confidence through good hygiene practices to restore public confidence in travelling once again. Tourism Malaysia Director General Datuk Musa Yusof said tourism industry players must always adhere to the SOPs and maintain social distancing among travellers.
So kita telah mendapat kelulusan 13 SOPs. Hotel, travel agency, macam-macam. Katalah hotel nak buat event yang berbentuk business tourism. Ada SOP dia. Banyak semua tu. So ada 13 yang telah dulu. Theme park sebagainya. Ada yang dry park, ada yang water park. So all these semua dah ada SOP. 13 yang kerajaan telah lulus. Mereka hendaklah mengikuti sepenuh-penuhnya SOP ini. Itu yang kita titik beratkan.
Datuk Musa also highlighted the fact that the reopening of the Malaysia-Singapore border is only for business visits and is done in stages. Cross-border travel between Malaysia and Singapore starting yesterday was made after both countries reached an agreement through two schemes, namely the Reciprocal Green Lane (RGL) and the Periodic Commuting Arrangement (PCA).
The government plans to build 7,374 housing units under the Malaysian Armed Forces ATM One Member One House program or Satu Anggota Satu Rumah SASAR program in the near future. The proposal by the Ministry of Defence was given the green light in a cabinet meeting on 7th August.
According to Defence Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, the objective of the program is to ensure that every military member, veteran and ministry civilian personnel owns a house. He also said that as many as 6,400 affordable SASAR housing units at the Genting Klang camp will be up for sale at a price of 150,000 to 250,000 ringgit, while 974 SASAR premium units at the Wardiburn camp will be up for sale at a price of 350,000 to 400,000 ringgit.
Jadi kita harapkan dengan harga jualan murah SASAR iaitu separuh harga akan dapat membantu warga Kementerian Pertahanan meliputi anggota tentera, golongan veteran dan awam untuk membeli dan memiliki rumah sendiri. Kita juga mencadangkan supaya 10% daripada jumlah rumah tersebut dijual kepada veteran juga. Dan kita akan, saya dah beritahu kepada KSU, mungkin kita boleh bantu dari segi pinjaman. Pinjaman. Sebab kalau veteran, umur dia mungkin dah 40-50 dan nak beli rumah dari segi loan mungkin terlalu membebankan.
The first SASAR project, the SASAR ATM residency in Sungai Besi, involving as many as 3,500 housing units, will begin construction at the end of this year and is expected to be completed by 2023.
Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the 2020 Tabung Pahlawan campaign will be targeting 10 million ringgit in donations. The launching ceremony tomorrow, he said, will be officiated by the Prime Minister's wife, Puan Sri Noraini Abdul Rahman.
The Defence Minister said the campaign, which will run until the end of December, aims to raise public awareness on the devotion and services of national heroes who gave their lives to defend the country. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said in addition to raising funds to help ATM veterans, it is also hoped that the campaign could help cultivate the spirit of patriotism, especially among younger generations.
Mengambil kira wabak COVID-19 yang masih belum berakhir, program kempen Tabung Pahlawan akan menggunakan pendekatan sedikit berbeza sesuai dengan norma baru yang disarankan oleh kerajaan. Ianya termasuklah penggunaan kaedah promosi melalui media cetak dan elektronik secara menyeluruh.
In the foreign segment, Israel drops bombs as Gaza's power plant shuts down due to fuel shortage. Hong Kong's leader says using her credit cards had been hampered by the United States slapping sanctions on her in response to a sweeping new security law in the financial hub. Chief Executive Carrie Lam was personally targeted along with 10 other senior city officials in the toughest US action on Hong Kong since Beijing imposed the new law on the territory in late June. The move by Washington freezes the American assets of the 11 officials and criminalizes any financial transactions in the US. The US Treasury Department said Lam was sanctioned because she is directly responsible for implementing Beijing's policies for suppression of freedom and democratic processes. Lam told Chinese state media that although the measures are really meaningless for her, she now has problems paying by plastic. Following the announcement of the sanctions on 7th August, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said they sent a clear message that the actions of the authorities in Hong Kong were unacceptable. Pompeo said China's security law violated promises made by China before Britain handed back the territory in 1997. But Lam said in the interview that all the sanctions are part of a ploy of the U.S. administration for their self-serving interests. Israeli warplanes pounded Hamas-ruled Gaza early today in response to Palestinian fire balloons allegedly launched across the border. The strikes came as visiting Egyptian security officials strove to defuse the latest uptick in violence.
An Israeli military statement said fighter jets and other aircraft struck underground infrastructures belonging to the Hamas organization in the Gaza Strip. It linked the airstrikes to so-called explosive and arson balloons launched from the Gaza Strip into Israel. Hamas had held talks with the Egyptian delegation in Gaza on Monday before it left the territory for meetings with the Israelis at the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority. It was expected to return to Gaza after those talks were concluded. Despite a truce last year backed by Egypt, the UN and Qatar, Hamas and Israel clash sporadically. Israel has banned fishing off Gaza's coast and closed the Kerem Shalom goods crossing, cutting off deliveries of fuel to the territory's sole power plant. The plant's spokesman Mohammad Tabed announced its complete shutdown today after its fuel ran out. Power had been in short supply even before the shutdown, with consumers having access to mains electricity for only around 8 hours a day. That will now be cut to just 4 hours a day using power supplied from the Israeli grid. For the rest of the time, those Gazans who can afford it rely on solar panels or generators, which also need fuel.
A fast-moving brush fire in Napa County exploded in size on Monday and had grown to 2,400 acres later on the day. Officials said the Hennessy fire ignited on Monday morning and there's zero containment.
The blaze was presumably started by lightning strikes amid a rash of thunderstorms in Northern California and has triggered evacuations in rural Napa County. The fire in the 60 block of Hennessy Ridge Road in Rutherford was reported at 6:40 a.m. local time, authorities said, and the evacuation order was given just before 11 a.m. Will Powers, a California fire spokesman, says it's not known how many homes are in the area. The Napa County Sheriff's Office issued mandatory evacuation orders for Sage Canyon Road from Chile's Pope Valley Road to Lower Chiles Road. An evacuation warning is in effect for Highway 128 at Lower Chiles Valley Road to Turtle Rock and Highway 128 at Silverado Trail of Chile's Pope Valley Road, including Pritchard Hill. Power said Chile's Pope Valley Road, Sage Canyon Road and Highway 128 were closed in the area, which is east of Lake Hennessy. He said it wasn't known yet whether the fire was caused by a lightning strike.
Coming up in sports, Inter thrash Shakhtar to reach Europa League final. Lautaro Martinez played chief tormentor as Inter Milan claimed an empathetic 5-0 victory against Shakhtar Donetsk to reach the Europa League final and come closer to a first title in 9 years early this morning. Argentine striker Martinez, who scored twice, was the pinnacle of a perfect tactical display as Antonio Conte's team set up a clash with the 5-time champion Sevilla, also thanks to a goal by Danilo D'Ambrosio and Romelu Lukaku brace.
Off to Barella.
Martinez struck his first in the 19th minute, heading in from Nicolo Barella's cross after the midfielder had been gifted possession from a attempted clearance by Shakhtar goalkeeper Andrei Pyatov. Diaz Zombrio rose highest in the area to head home Marcelo Brozovic's corner just after the hour before Martinez side-footed in his second to seal the win, and Lukaku came to the party with 2 neat finishes of his own. Lukaku has now scored in 10 straight Europa League games and has 33 goals for the season. Inter are a rejuvenated club with a team full of players seeking redemption and manager looking to restore his reputation. There has been a barren 9 seasons since they claimed the Club World Cup and Coppa Italia in 2010-11. Having also missed out on the Serie A title by a single point, Inter now have the chance to claim a first trophy since 2011 when they faced Julian Lopetegui's Sevilla on Friday.
Turned on the afterburners, didn't he?
Barcelona have sacked Quique Setien as coach. The club confirmed on Monday, with Ronald Koeman the front runner to be his replacement. Setien was only appointed in January but has paid the price for Barca, surrendering the La Liga title for Real Madrid and then being humiliated by Bayern Munich in the Champions League.
Barca said in a statement Setien's exit was finalized during an emergency board meeting at Camp Nou, which lasted almost 6 hours and saw Koeman emerge as the favourite choice to take charge. The club also announced next year's presidential elections, scheduled for June, will be brought forward to 15th March. Angry supporters had hoped they would be held immediately, but that possibility was ruled out, meaning under fire president Josep Maria Bartomeu will continue. Setien's successor will still be under pressure to deliver quickly, given a new board next year could install their own coach, with Xavi Hernandez linking himself to rival presidential candidate Victor Font. Koeman had been in charge of the Dutch national team since 2018 and is due to lead them at the postponed European Championship next year and the World Cup in 2022. Mauricio Pochettino was also considered, but his previous comments dismissing Barca due to his links with rivals Espanyol have counted against him. Koeman enjoys hero status at Barcelona after starring for them as a player under Johan Cruyff and scoring the winning goal in the 1992 European Cup final.
Belgian international defender Vincent Kompany has hung up his boots at the age of 34 to become manager of Anderlecht on a 4-year contract. The club announced on Monday that Kompany, who joined Anderlecht from Manchester City in 2019 as player-manager, will now take over from Frankie Vegetaren, who had been handling coaching duties in a purely managerial role.
Kompany's first game in charge will come on Sunday as Anderlecht take on Mouscron. Kompany, who enjoyed a trophy-laden 11-year spell in England with City, said he is quitting as a football player to fully commit to his role as a coach. As a defender and skipper at City, Kompany won 4 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups and 4 League Cups with City, and is widely regarded as one of the club's greatest ever players. After making his international debut as a 17-year-old, he went on to play 89 times for Belgium, notably leading them to 3rd in the 2018 World Cup.
And that concludes this evening's News at 10. In our top story, 500 million ringgit prihatin sukuk for Malaysians to help rebuild economy. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon for more updates. I'm Renee Fong. Stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM. Good night.